Hey, it's Jordan Sheridan. I am live. It is Friday, November 9th, and it's been a very, very busy news week. And unfortunately, it's not going to be a light day today because we have quite a lot going on as far as news. It is obviously the aftermath of the midterm elections where there's a lot of races that are still very close. Squirrel lips. Squirrel lips. Can I say thank you, Squirrel lips? Literally, within like 10 seconds of this report, Squirrel Lips starts us off on the super chat with the $1.99. Thank you, Squirrel Lips. Appreciate it. This is a super chat. So if you are feeling super, I beg of you, keep independent media flourishing. Keep that super chat money coming, and we're gonna have GoFundMe updates, and we're gonna have a good time while also taking on the oligarchy because boy, oh boy, does the oligarchy need to be taken on. Correct? Correct. Hold on, let me remove some stuff from my computer so we can see me because it's already buffering. Hold on. All right, getting rid of that one. And press the share button. Let's get this out to as many people as possible. YouTube, again, has been throttling the hell out of this channel. All of a sudden, nobody could see the live streams. All of a sudden, nobody sees my videos. Very, very infuriating when YouTube does this, but we gotta grin and bear it. So hold on as I do this. Let me know if you could see me. Let me know if you could hear me because I'm seeing some buffering. Meg said Jordan is a thug. Well, thank you. I hope that's like a thug in a badass way, but if it's a thug in a not nice way, I'll take that too. And of course, share this video, get it out to as many people as you can, especially on Facebook, because we've been very, very suppressed there too. But we're gonna keep on trucking along, even though there is suppression. So where do you even begin? Where do I start today? You have literally America with these elections has become a banana republic. I mean, we already were a banana republic. Oh, Jamal Thomas is live, so I'm competing with Jamal Thomas. Sorry, I like Jamal Thomas, but my favorite troll Jerry Ross is in the house today, so it's going to be an exciting live stream. We got Jerry Ross here. Always like hanging out with Jerry, of course. So you have drama with the Florida elections, drama with the Georgia elections, corporate media proving itself to be absolutely useless, which I'm going to get to. Kamala Harris proving to be Hillary Clinton's clone, which I'm going to get to. And in a very, very, very rare bit of good news, I know Jerry Ross, my favorite troll, is not going to like this good news. Because Jerry works for the oil companies. I don't know which oil company, I'm investigating that. But he definitely works for the oil companies, that's for sure. In that good news, the Keystone Pipeline, Trump's permit for the Keystone Pipeline has been revoked. So that is good news in a sea of very bad news. And anyone asking, Jen's not going to be on the live chat today. She's not feeling well, so send her your love. Send her your love. Tell Jen what you think of her. So good vibes and good comments can get her back to good health. Oh, Jerry's waiting for his paycheck. But Sam is operating the live chat, so we thank Sam. Sam's done a lot of work behind the scenes for us as we're launching Status Coup. So, part of the behind the scenes, sometimes you want to cover a story, but you're crashing on multiple stories, so you just don't get the information in time. So, full disclosure, I have harassed Tim Canova throughout today, journalistically harassed, that is, to try and get an interview with him, to try and talk to him, because obviously there seems to be some shenanigans that have gone on in that election. Tim Canova obviously switched for the Democratic Party to the Independent. He was an independent running. He got like 4.9% of the vote, which seems really impossible to believe. He only lost by 12 percentage points against Wasserman Schultz, who's a Democrat. And some polls had it quasi-dead heat. So to think that Tim Canova had 4.9% of the vote, I just find that hard to believe. So I tried to speak with Tim before I went live today. I tried to interview him because I want to cover the story, but I also need to be responsible. So Tim was not available to speak with me today. He's obviously busy. There's been some stuff he has sent out and some videos he has sent out that might suggest there was some shenanigans down there, but I don't want to be journalistically irresponsible to put out information that I have not had the time to investigate and I don't know much about. So I'm not going to cover that today, but I just want people were tweeting at me about this. I am looking into what went on with the Tim Canova race down there. I'm trying to get a hold of him. He did respond to me, but he was not available for an interview. So we are going to cover it. I don't want to give you incomplete information. So as of now, I don't know what happened. I find it extremely hard to believe that Tim Canova got only 5% of the vote down there, especially in his second go-around. We know that the supervisor of elections there in Broward County, who is obviously in the news right now, destroyed the paper ballots in Canova's election against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in 2016. We know the Broward County supervisor of elections also is BFFs with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and was photographed at the end of October, lovingly in an embrace with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This is the supervisor of elections in Broward County who is supposed to be neutral. So we are going to cover it. I'll get either an interview with Tim or get some information from Tim or his campaign. I've also reached out to some people on the ground there that were working on behalf of Tim. So I don't want you to think I'm ignoring it. It's just I don't have enough information to report anything accurately. And I'm not going to rush it just to have something. So that's where that stands. But although I don't have the full information, I did find this super kind of humorous, while at the same time being absolutely just shows corporate media and what corporate media is all about. So this is a segment today. A Politico reporter from Florida was on with MSNBC explaining the Florida shit show. And look at the MSNBC's anchor's response when the Politico reporter explains what I just told you about in 2016, the Broward County supervisor of elections, Brenda Snipes, literally tossing the ballots, the paper ballots, just destroying them, which is completely illegal, basically to protect and help make sure that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is reelected. Look at her response. This is how you know the corporate media, none of these people are actual journalists. None of them actually have any sense of cynicism or suspicion at all. It's almost like, what do you mean the government's corrupt? Here we go.
Under Snipes fixed. You've had under Snipes, these problems haven't really been fixed. You've had a number of lawsuits as of late, and just in the past year, where she's lost a lawsuit against the Republican Party of Florida because of the way she handled absentee ballots, basically opening them up in secret and tallying them before the canvassing board could review them.
Well, that's weird.
She lost a lawsuit against Tim Canova, the candidate against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in 2016 and this year. It was in the 2016 race. He wanted to inspect ballots. She tried to charge him tens of thousands of dollars merely to look at them. Then, once they had negotiated a price down, she destroyed the ballots, which was illegal. And so this
What? What? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why hasn't this been out there? The MSNBC anchor asks. I continue.
Happening and keeps happening and keeps happening. Now, you played a clip earlier from Governor Scott, who was complaining about Brenda Snipes' incompetence. Incidentally, the Florida Constitution gives and gave the governor the right to suspend any constitutional officer from office for incompetence.
I'm sorry, I got to play that one more time. It's too much fun.
And now handled absentee ballots, basically opening them up in secret and tallying them before the canvassing board could review them.
Well, that's weird.
Ooh, that's weird. That's weird. What do you mean? That's weird that a political supervisor who's best friends with Debbie Wasserman Schultz tossed paper ballots in 2016. That's weird. Why didn't I hear about that here at MSNBC?
Yes, she lost a lawsuit against Tim Canova, the candidate against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in 2016 and this year. It was in the 2016 race. He wanted to inspect ballots. She tried to charge him tens of thousands of dollars merely to look at them. Then what? once they negotiated price down, she destroyed the ballots, which was illegal. And
What?
So this just keeps happening.
What?
Keeps happening and keeps happening.
What do you mean there's gambling in this establishment? I do declare. You can't make it up. So, it pains me. It actually pains me. It pains me to give Politico credit, but Politico actually reported this, I believe last year. They did good reporting on this, that the supervisor of elections, Brenda Snipes, who is BFF with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, literally illegally destroyed the paper ballots in that election between Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Tim Canova. So it's not like it wasn't public information. It's not like Katie Torr and MSNBC couldn't have covered this. So they're just like, what? She did what? And this is what I write about in my book, Corporate Con Job, which, by the way, we're going to be releasing in paperback very soon. We're just finishing re-editing the whole thing, and then we're going to be selling it in paperback. If you don't like reading online, need a little holiday gift for the kiddies or yourself, we will be selling in paperback, so get ready. But I write about this in my book all the time. They are paid to be clueless. They are paid to have no suspicion. They are paid to actually think the government is upstanding men and women who, if they do wrong, it's an accident. What do you mean the paper ballots were destroyed? What? Well, that's weird. Thank you, OTR Tucker. $5 in the super chat. Definite shenanigans, especially in Broward, it's obvious and showing up in the gubernatorial, senatorial, and Canova races. Yes, I'm going to get to that. But if you're coming to this late, I just wanted to give you an update. I'm not ignoring what's going on with Tim Canova. Sometimes somebody doesn't get back to you before you go live. Sometimes you're crashing on multiple things, which I am. So I don't want to do a rushed report on what's going on when I don't have the facts. So I'm not going to just speculate on what's going on down there. I don't believe that he only got 5%. I do think there's shenanigans, and I am looking into it, and I will speak with Tim over the weekend. You have my word. So that's what's going on with that. And as a reminder, this is a super chat, and I'm going to give you an update, folks, before we move on to the next story. We're still pushing. We're still pushing hard on this GoFundMe. We are at $19,397. Our goal for the end of November is $25,000. So we need support. We need $5, $10, $15. You get $100 hat or shirt. 127 gets you both. We're coming up with new ideas for giveaways. Jen is starting to mail out the hats and the shirts. The first people who contributed will be getting their hats and their shirts very, very soon. We thank the 278 people who have contributed. I understand everybody's living within their means, so if you can't contribute, just share the video. Get it out to as many people as possible. Ty and I are both monitoring the Georgia and Florida situations very closely, particularly Georgia, which I reported on yesterday, I think is legalized. It's not even voter suppression, it's voter theft. This is a legalized theft of an election from Stacey Abrams by Brian Kemp against Stacey Abrams. So we might, depending on how things shake out in the next day or two, we might head down there to cover that unfolding story. But we do need reinforcements. We do need more funding, not just for this in the field reporting. Equipment we need. We also want to be able to hire other people, even on a part-time basis. Jen is doing the job of 7 people. I can't do my job thoroughly when I'm not just reporting, but doing the job of 15 people. And Ty is doing the job of many people too. And we didn't create Status Coup to be a little club. We want to grow this out. So we definitely want to bring on other people, but obviously we need seed money for that. And there's some other exciting things that we're going to be doing with the money. And as always, we're going to be transparent. You know what we're using this money on because we're showing you. We were in Dallas, we were in Flint, and like I said, we're thinking about going to Georgia and or Florida as soon as this weekend. Just waiting to see a few things, how that shakes out. So thank you. If you can contribute, feel free to the GoFundMe. And of course, Super Chat is fantastic too. Thank you, Rob, for the $1.99 in the Super Chat. Stop calling it shenanigans. It's election fraud. Hey, Rob, go watch my videos and go watch my Twitter. I use election fraud. 100%. I agree. Exhausted 11, $4.99. Thank you very much. Zach Smith, $5 in the super chat. What do you think we should do to fix the mass shooting epidemic? Why don't other countries have this problem? Would universal background checks work? I got into this yesterday, and before I was live, I was literally trying to track down this video because an MSNBC anchor had an interview this morning, and I could not believe, Zach. I couldn't believe what this anchor said. And I'm not going to do the segment because I don't have the video. Hopefully they put it up over the weekend. So Stephanie Rule, the MSNBC anchor, asks Sandy Hook mother, a mother from Sandy Hook who lost her son in that horrific shooting. Why does this keep happening? Why has nothing changed since your son's tragic death in 2012? And I just went ballistic on Twitter. Hey, maybe nothing changes because journalists like you, instead of actually challenging the politicians and putting on the screen every single politician and how much money they take from the NRA and shaming them to the high heavens until they come on so that you could hold them accountable, maybe if you did that, rather than doing play-by-plays of the shooting for now 6 hours, because they don't even cover it for a day anymore. They cover these shootings for like 3 hours and then move back to Trump. So maybe if you actually followed the money, because that's why this keeps happening. It's not just the guns, it's the political corruption leading to the unfettered guns. That's what's going on, folks. So wait till I have that clip, because you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it. But Zachary, you want to know the answer? You want to know the answer? And I know the mental health crowd and all these people are going to say differently. This is not a mental health issue. Mental health is one thing. We do need more investment in mental health services, but you're not going to eradicate mental health illness in this country or any other country. Ty interviewed a mothers with demand action the other day, live from the shooting, and she said other countries have mental health problems, but they don't have these epidemics. It's a gun issue. We need to get rid of assault weapons away from so they cannot get into the hands of citizens. We need new laws that restrict the size of magazines in these guns. This shooter at the latest mass shooting had a Glock, I believe, with an extended magazine. Well, why do you need that extended magazine? To shoot more bullets. We need to close the gun show loophole. And frankly, we need to take on the NRA head on. And that, in addition to Medicare for all and those things, that needs to be a litmus test for any politician, particularly Democrats. So that's part of it. And yes, universal background checks. So that is what I believe. But it starts with getting rid of these assault weapons. There's a reason Australia, after the first mass shooting, they got rid of it. And they haven't had one since. It's not rocket science. We have the answers. We don't have the political courage because these politicians would rather have blood on their hands if they have money in their campaigns. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. So before I go on to the first topic, if you haven't seen it in a while, I want to show you what we're doing here at Status Coup. And if you get the courage, if you get the excitement, if you get the desire to, feel free. Help us create the media revolution. Here we go.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're in tonight with the president not saying something, not tweeting, not punching back. Nothing at all about Stormy Daniels.
I don't like that people like when I'm with you more than when I'm not.
Lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground.
Our kids breaking out in blisters.
Lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground.
The government and the media would rather focus on the president's tweets, scary boogeymen from Russia, instead of people being poisoned.
We were driving up and we started seeing the lines to this church here. A lot of the churches in Flint are distribution centers for free bottled water.
It's sad to see that 4 years later, we're still going through the same thing as if it happened 3 months ago.
They said, oh, your water's totally clear for lead, it's fine. There's no way for them to know that.
I really do believe that this water, from us consuming all of this stuff, that is what caused my miscarriages.
I'm all broke out. I have picked my own pictures. I'm all broke out. I'm diabetic. Look at, I have like webs. And this is from the water.
You killed his body, then you killed his name. Why are you here if you have no answer?
Eric Cherry was killed on the streets of Chicago at 16 years old. That's my grandson.
We saw 24-year-old Maurice Granton shot in the back while running for police.
Right now, there is a hunt, and black boys are the prey.
When it was communities who are mostly wealthy, mostly white, it's like the pain is felt. But with something about our communities where I see our youth having to fight, literally needing support to get the rest of the world to understand that the everyday shootings they have to see and go right back to school after their friend was killed is just as painful. Like literally having to convince society that we can't take more pain, that we can't take this no more.
Polluting the water? Since when is profit more important than water? When is profit more important than people?
Hey, it's Jordan. I'm here in Flint, Michigan. I am here on Lakeshore Drive here in Chicago. I am here live in Dallas, beautiful Virginia. Hey, it's Jordan. I'm live in Arlington, Texas. Look at this destruction. You're not going to see this anywhere. You think CNN's coming up here? Please. Yeah, if you could prove Putin cut down the trees, they'll be here in a jiffy.
Status Coup. Is it now? It's going to be called. Is it going to be statuscoup.com?
Yes. Most people are not lacking compassion. Most people do not know what the fuck is going on. There you have it, folks. That is the promo video. I haven't shown it in a while, but that is what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to do. So help us do it. GoFundMe. We're putting the link in the chat, and I will also put it in the description box. Even $5, 104 people watching, $5 each gets us closer to our goal. $25,000 by the end of November. I think we could do it. Our overall goal is $50,000. I know we could do it, but we need everybody. And if you can't contribute, that's okay. Share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your dog. I don't care. Share it because we want this to be a revolution. A revolution. And a revolution needs many, many soldiers, peaceful soldiers, because this is a journalistic revolution. So, and as a reminder, if you're coming to this late, it's very possible that Ty and I will be headed to Georgia, depending on how things go in the next day or two. So I'm monitoring it, and we might be going. And by the way, for my Facebook viewers, because I know there's some people on Facebook watching, you might be wondering why are there long silences and all that. It's because as currently constituted, the technical program that I use to go live, for whatever reason, Twitter and YouTube, I'm able to show the videos and show the articles I'm reading from and all that, but for some reason, Facebook can't. Thanks to the GoFundMe and all of your generous contribution, Ty was able to just purchase a program. It ain't cheap, but that will allow us to also show you the videos and show you the production elements on Facebook. So it's not just Twitter and YouTube that can see things, but also Facebook. So we'll be starting with that relatively soon. And thank you, Tammy, $27 on the GoFundMe just now. I really, really appreciate it. So moving on, Florida. If you're young enough or old enough to remember the Florida 2000 recount, where the Supreme Court stole an election for George W. Bush. Looks like there's the same type of election fraud ready to happen in Florida now. So I already covered the Georgia issue yesterday. I also covered Andrew Gillum and DeSantis, and there's some funny things going on with that too. Thank you, OTR Trucker, $5 in the super chat. When I was young, law enforcement kept and published gun statistics. The truth about accidental gun deaths especially had a big effect on gun sales. That's true. Good point. So now you have, and I want to make something abundantly clear before I even mention Rick Scott versus Bill Nelson. Frankly, I don't really give a damn if Bill Nelson loses or wins, because Bill Nelson is a corrupt Democrat. He is a corrupt establishment Democrat. He takes money from fossil fuels and fracking and says nothing against these oil pipelines and this fracking, and allows Florida to burn with the rest of the planet. So not a fan of Bill Nelson, not covering this because I think, God, we have to save Bill Nelson. I don't give a damn. I think Rick Scott's terrible, but but I can't really sit here and be like, well, we got to fight tooth and nail to reelect Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson is your dime a dozen corporate, corrupt, establishment Democrat. That's the truth. So, two things could be true. He's corrupt. He's part of the problem. But on the other end, Rick Scott and what he's trying to do in Florida is also corrupt. So, I'm going to say both. So, not only do you have in Georgia, literally the Secretary of State of Georgia was purging hundreds of thousands of people while running for governor. That's not even a conflict of interest. That's a complete and utter ethics tsunami. He should have had to step down as Secretary of State as soon as he launched for governor. But because apparently we don't have conflict of interest laws in this country, you could do whatever the hell you want. And press the share button. Let's get this video to more people. So, not only do you have this corruption in Georgia, but you have the governor of Florida, Rick Scott, who's also running to be the senator from Florida because his term as governor is up. Now, he is basically, because he's up, I think, by like 0.2 of a point, 0.2% he's up, which is automatic. I think it's automatic. It's automatic recount, and I think 0.1 or 0.2% is automatic manual recount. So Rick Scott now, as governor, is essentially taking actions to try and basically stop more votes from being counted that could actually reelect Bill Nelson or get Bill Nelson more votes. And again, I think Bill Nelson's awful. I think Bill Nelson's a corrupt Democrat. Go look at his donor sheet. You'll see why. Takes a lot of money from big oil, a lot of money for the big banks, turns the other way as the big sugar lobby screws Florida and all that. But democracy is democracy, and you literally have Rick Scott now playing God as the governor of Florida. He's talking about sending troops down to oversee the vote counting and all these things. So let's look at the latest here. We're literally living in a banana republic. So this is from USA Today. A Broward County Circuit Judge has ordered Broward County Supervisor of Elections Brenda Snipes to release records requested by Governor Rick Scott and the National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee related to provide public records related to voting tabulations. Scott and the NRSC filed a lawsuit against Snipes after she allegedly refused to release details on tabulations. Broward Circuit Judge Carol Lisa Phillips ordered the Supervisor of Elections office to release the records, which includes the most current records related to how many ballots have been cast in the county, the amount of ballots that have been counted, and any documents that explain how many ballots are left to be counted by 7 p.m. The ruling has nothing to do with the allegations of voter fraud Scott and other Republicans made Thursday against Snipes. So you have Rick Scott and President Trump ranting about, voter fraud that doesn't even exist. So this is really something. Rick Scott, as the governor, is literally requesting an investigation and trying to use law enforcement, basically send out his troops to look into voter fraud that might be hurting him as Senate candidate. I mean, you cannot have more of a conflict of interest. After the Florida Department of Law Enforcement said Thursday night it would investigate 2 local election officials at the request of Governor Rick Scott, the agency now says that because no voter fraud allegations were made, it is no longer pursuing an investigation. What changed is that this morning we spoke with the Department of State and they indicated they had no criminal allegations of fraud, an FDLE spokesperson told Politico. So after speaking to them, we offered our assistance in the event any criminal allegations are identified. During an event organized by the U.S. Senate campaign Thursday night, Scott asked FDLE to investigate Broward County of Elections Brenda Snipes and Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections Susan Butcher. those two counties have come under heat from Republicans because after Scott, Republican gubernatorial nominee Ron DeSantis and Republican Agriculture Commissioner candidate Matt Caldwell led their Democratic opponents after election night. Their leads have narrowed as the two Democratic stronghold counties continue to find votes. Quote, Broward and Palm Beach counties are still finding and counting ballots, Scott said at the event, which was held at the Florida governor's mansion in Tallahassee. The people of Florida deserve fairness and transparency, and the supervisors are failing to give it to them. So what exactly is the corrupt part of that, Governor Scott? That there's more ballots that need to be counted because Florida is notoriously awful at counting ballots, awful at running elections? You were the governor of Florida. Maybe you could have done something about that. Just a thought. Just a thought. As governor of Florida for 8 years, maybe you could have done something to expedite voting, counting, expedite the voting infrastructure, expedite and improve voting machinery, expedite and make one uniform policy for all counties on how ballots have to look, because apparently every county looks different. And they designed their ballots very differently, which actually ended up screwing Bill Nelson, because it seems that in Broward County, I believe, they had the Senate race between Scott and Nelson. The governor's race was very noticeable on the ballot, right at the top. You make your selection, but Scott versus Nelson, the Senate race was all the way down in the left corner, and apparently a lot of people didn't see it, so therefore didn't vote for Scott or Nelson. Maybe as governor, you could have done something about that. Now it's biting you in the ass. But basically, Scott, President Trump, and all these Republicans are basically crying voter fraud and crying, oh, they're finding imaginary votes. No, not all the votes. Not all the votes are in. There's a lot of provisional ballots. There's a lot of absentee ballots. There's also military ballots, overseas ballots. So because Rick Scott, as governor, doesn't want Bill Nelson to get any more votes, because the more the margin shrinks, the better chance that a recount would actually help win the election for Bill Nelson. But you can't make this stuff up. The governor of Florida is trying to use his law enforcement to basically try and win the election for him. He was trying to send law enforcement as his role in governor to basically go stand there and watch the ballots be counted. That's an abuse of power. Governor Scott should have no role whatsoever. You want to file a lawsuit? That's fine. You want to cry voter fraud with no evidence? That's fine. He should have no part to play at all in the overseeing of the ballots being counted and all of his stuff. And again, I'm not a fan of Bill Nelson. I don't really care if he wins or loses, to tell you the truth. I think Rick Scott would make a terrible senator, but I think Bill Nelson's a terrible senator. So take your pick of terrible senators between the two of them. But we're supposed to live in a democracy. Sam here, and I do believe Jordan and Jen have seen the news. What news? Which news am I? The live chat's going quick, so I don't know which news you're talking about. So, it's unbelievable. Between Brian Kemp, the corrupt Secretary of State in Georgia, purging hundreds of thousands of people so that he could win, and that's still unfolding. Stacey Abrams has not conceded, thankfully. And now Rick Scott trying to essentially rig it for himself. And you want to talk about the threat of Russian attack on our democracy? Are you kidding me? Vincier says, how about upholding a favor and free election for both sides? I think you meant free and fair elections for both sides. Absolutely. Jeremy Gifford, you want Nelson in because you want Democratic control of the Senate? Nelson winning isn't going to give them control. They're already down 5 or 6 points. And frankly, I mean, I don't want the Republicans to be in power on the Senate, but you think the Democrats, what? You think Chuck Schumer and the Democrats having control of the Senate is going to magically close the income inequality gap in this country? You think that's going to magically have an assault weapons ban? You think that's going to magically, provide government jobs programs for inner cities and economically depressed communities like Flint, Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Baltimore, Chicago? I could go on. You think the Democrats retaking the Senate's going to do that? Not these Democrats. You got Nancy Pelosi in the House. She wants to be Speaker again. They just retook the House. She's talking about, oh, we're gonna be as bipartisan as possible, and we're gonna just engage in the, what does she call it? The marketplace of ideas. Yeah, the marketplace of our ideas that our donors allow. The marketplace of ideas that our donors allow. And don't get me wrong. I actually am semi-happy that the Democrats retook the House because I think it is a toxic situation in America when Trump and these Republican extremists have complete control. So I do think it's good that there's somewhat of a check now on Trump. However, these Democrats aren't exactly fighting for you, folks. 70% of the country wants Medicare for all. If you look at the exit polls in the country, I reported this yesterday, this was the top issue of the midterms. 41% in the exit polls said healthcare was their top issue. So let's look at two numbers. 70% of Americans want Medicare for all. That would 52% of those are Republicans. You got 70% total want Medicare for all. 85% of the Democratic Party wants Medicare for all. 52% of Republicans want Medicare for all. 41% in the exit polls. Top issue, healthcare. Far past the economy. Yet, Nancy Pelosi, oh, we can't do Medicare for all. It's just not realistic. Fight, goddammit! Make Donald Trump, put him on the defensive, as Bernie Sanders said. Expose him as a fake populist. Donald Trump is the one during the campaign who said, everybody's going to be covered under me. Cheryl, don't worry, Cheryl. I'm getting there. We're gonna be talking about Keystone. And by the way, Cheryl, don't think I didn't notice. I know you're going through a rough time, so I'm thinking of you. I saw those messages. So it's just unbelievable. And with Rick Scott, it doesn't just end with thinking about sending his sending his law enforcement there to basically intimidate and stand over people counting ballots. He purged. He's the Brian Kemp of Florida. I mean, read this. A Rick Scott appointee is in charge of calling for a Nelson Scott Senate recount. So the governor of Florida, his Secretary of State that he appointed, will be in charge of a possible recount. Ken Detzner, Florida Secretary of State, once conducted a voter roll purge so obvious that the U.S. Department of Justice had to swoop in and stop him. Earlier this year, Detzner brazenly tried to prevent the state from opening more early voting sites at colleges, which a judge said revealed a stark pattern of discrimination. To call Detzner a close Rick Scott ally is an understatement. The governor and senator-elect gave Detzner his job, and the pair has spent the past 8 years hatching obvious stunts to prevent Floridians from voting. Now Detzner is magically in charge of initiating any possible recount in the race between incumbent Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, a man with whom Detzner personally feuded on the 2018 campaign trail, and Scott. While it's more than likely that Detzner will wind up acquiescing and ordering the move, the situation, a cabinet member ordering a recount that could hurt his own governor, smacks of a conflict of interest. So, I think what you're seeing here, folks, between what's going on in Georgia, what's going on in Florida now, is this is a banana republic. This is not a democracy, folks. This is not a democracy. And if these two elections aren't teaching you anything, the bottom line is this. If you run for public office, for any position, right, then there needs to be some type of law that if you win and run, if you then decide to run for another office, then any role, if you then decide to run for another office while you are still actively in your elected position, then you need to resign that position, or you need to totally recuse yourself 100% from any activities that could help you in your race. Meaning, there should have been a law that immediately Brian Kemp had to step down as Secretary of State as soon as he decided to run for governor in Georgia. There should have been a law in place that he had to do that. That is a blatant conflict of interest. Rick Scott, there should be a law in place that as governor of Florida, he has no say in the Senate election where he's running for Senate. He has no say in the recount. He could not use state resources to help him get the votes he needs or to stop Bill Nelson from getting the votes he needs. There should also be a law that officials that are appointed by Rick Scott, meaning this Secretary of State, should have to also recuse themselves. So this Secretary of State that's friends with Rick Scott and has worked hand in hand with Rick Scott to basically purge voters, stop early voting, which obviously helps Democrats, he should have to recuse himself. These are blatant conflicts of interest. And they're blatant and out in the open, but we don't have a justice system in this country. We have a justice system for the powerful, and then for us. And which one's more fair, and which one's unjust? It's unbelievable. And for the last time, honestly, I don't want Rick Scott to be a senator, but I'm not going to die on the vein for Bill Nelson. I mean, I should have prepared better and showed you his donor list, but he's corrupt. He's been in Washington too long. Takes a lot of fracking money, a lot of big bank money. He's not a friend to the progressives. He's not a friend to the worker bee. So I don't really give a damn if he loses, to tell you the truth. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, and please don't, I think he's a little better than Rick Scott, but that's the problem with America. We got to stop taking this lesser of two evils. In a vacuum, is he better? Yeah, but he's not better for the climate, which is ravaging Florida. You read some researchers and experts, they say Florida could be underwater in the next 2 decades. That's not an opinion. That's research and a lot of predictions. So I think Bill Nelson should have been gone long ago. I don't want Rick Scott to win the Senate seat, but this isn't about whether I like Bill Nelson or not. This is about democracy. And you can't have Rick Scott sending in his troops to influence the recount, fake lawsuits about non-existent voter fraud. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So, in a story that I am excited to report on. And before I went live today, I was trying to do a whole lot of things. I was trying to get an interview with Tim Canova to cover that. I was trying to get an interview with the Harold Frazier, who is the chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, because I wanted to interview him about this news that the Keystone pipeline, the permit that Trump allowed, on day 2 of his presidency, he reversed Obama's denial of that final permit for Keystone. So, he reversed the Dakota Access pipeline decision, he also reversed the Keystone pipeline decision, basically allowing Keystone 2.0, because that pipeline was stopped in 2011 by President Obama, basically because he was running for re-election, but whatever, we'll take it. So it was revitalized, and pre-construction was already beginning. Ty and I were actually talking to the tribe about going down to South Dakota, because it was going from Alberta, Canada, through Montana, South Dakota, Nebraska, and of course, it's not for energy independence or use in America. It was then going to export terminals in the Gulf. But I was trying to get an interview with Chairman Frazier to see what he thought of this, because this is a great development. They got back to me that we could do it. We couldn't do it today. So anyway, let me give you the news here. The Keystone pipeline, a federal judge from Montana has reversed the decision, basically blocking Trump's final permit for the Keystone pipeline, which is amazing news. I want to temper it, and I want to be cautious with it because it is temporary and it obviously could be reversed, but got to take good news while it lasts. A federal judge temporarily blocked construction of the controversial Keystone XL pipeline, ruling late Thursday that the Trump administration had failed to justify its decision granting a permit for the 1,200-mile-long project designed to connect Canada's oil sands fields with Texas's Gulf Coast refineries. See, this is the Washington Post, so you can't really expect great reporting from them. It's not oil sand fields. It's oil tar sands. This is the most toxic shit you could put on Earth or in pipes. So you want to call it sand fields? Fine. It's actually tar sands, oil. So let me correct the Washington Post there. The judge, Brian Morris, of the U.S. District Court in Montana said the State Department ignored crucial issues of climate change to further the president's goal of letting the pipeline being built. In doing so, the administration ran afoul of the Administrative Procedure Act, which requires, quote, reasoned explanations for government decisions, particularly when they represent reversals of well-studied actions. It was a major defeat for President Trump, who attacked the Obama administration for stopping the project in the face of protests and an environmental impact study. Trump signed an executive order 2 days into his presidency, setting in motion a course reversal on the Keystone XL pipeline. I want to read that one more time because there's a part of it that's really important. It was a major defeat for President Trump, who attacked the Obama administration for stopping the project in the face of protests and an environmental impact study. So there was no environmental impact study for the Dakota Access Pipeline, and I don't believe there was one for Keystone either. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't. An environmental impact study is different than an environmental assessment. An environmental impact study is a much more, the requirement is much more thorough. It can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years if done correctly. And it has to, it can't be the oil company is not the one who does the environmental study, okay? It is supposed to be the Army Corps of Engineers. Whereas an environmental assessment is a much easier thing to do. And the environmental assessment is done by the fossil fuel companies. So the fossil fuel companies hire a contractor to environmentally assess. And gee golly, Jim, these contractors that the fossil fuel companies end up hiring conclude every single time there's no environmental risk here. This is what happened with the Dakota Access Pipeline. I believe this is what happened with the Keystone XL Pipeline. I believe that's what's happened with the Bayou Bridge Pipeline. I believe this is what happened with the Trans-Pecos Pipeline. I believe this is what happened with the Rover Pipeline. I believe this is what happened with the Mountain Valley Pipeline. I believe this is what happened with the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I could go on, folks. I could go on. But basically, the judge said, you all didn't do the legal due diligence here to actually make sure that the environmental risks of this aren't catastrophic and going to pour, no pun intended, gasoline on already very volatile climate change. The ruling highlights a broader legal vulnerability in the Trump administration's push to roll back Obama-era environmental protections. Since Trump took office, federal courts have found repeatedly that his agencies have short-circuited the regulatory process in areas ranging from water protections to chemical plant safety operations. Robust environmental and administrative procedure laws, many dating back to the 1970s, have given the administration's opponents plenty of legal ammunition. And I want to make a point here. And kudos to this judge. You got to, I'll knock the judicial system at any chance I get, but this judge is spot on. When he says the State Department ignored crucial issues of climate change to further the president's goal of letting the pipeline being built. In doing so, the administration ran afoul of the Administrative Procedure Act, which requires, quote, reasoned explanations for government decisions. This is the same exact thing that happened for the Dakota Access Pipeline, which obviously I was there quite extensively in the fall and winter of 2016 and then 2017. So I'm not basically they are short-circuiting every single environmental impact study. They're not doing them. They are rerouting the pipelines into indigenous communities and poor communities because they don't want to put them in white communities. So the bottom line is this. This ruling should have been the ruling as far as the Dakota Access Pipeline and all of these pipelines, because if they actually did a thorough environmental impact study looking at the effects on water, looking at the effects on wildlife in the area, looking at the effects in air, looking at the effects on these communities' sacred land, many of these are indigenous communities, they wouldn't permit final permits for most of these pipelines. So basically the judge has ruled the permit that Trump granted has been temporarily blocked, and the judge has given TransCanada, the parent company, has given them the opportunity to go do that more thorough environmental review. So, hey, we'll take it. We'll take a temporary blockage, because a temporary blockage where they have to stop construction, we have to keep them honest and make sure they are actually not constructing, because a lot of times judges say you cannot, permit revoked, no more construction, and the oil companies and the fossil fuel companies just blow them off. Hey, we'll take the fine. We're going to keep building. So there actually has to be enforcement of this, and dare I say journalists on the ground, which we want to go to South Dakota and Montana to make sure that there is no construction going on. So that's part of what we want the GoFundMe funding for. I was actually planning on going to South Dakota before this decision was made, to interview people from the Cheyenne Sioux River tribe, which the pipeline was going through their reservation. I might still go, because I don't think we could do a victory lap here that it's totally over. It's not totally over. Again, it's a temporary blocking of the permit, which means no construction. The fossil fuel company has been given an opportunity to do, or the State Department to do further review. So it ain't over until it's over. But I can tell you, this temporary permit getting revoked, the investors in this pipeline, not going to be happy. Not going to be happy, because the pipeline has already been delayed many, many years. So further delay only means they're not getting their money. They're not getting their money. So there's the potential that you might very well see investors back out of this. So we'll keep on it. I mean, this is a good development for sure. This is a good development for sure, but it's just a development. It's not the final, this pipeline's never being built. So we need to be careful about that. So before I move on to the next topic, I see Sam's writing, Tanel, I'm not going to answer that question as an official position. Do a super chat with the question and Jordan will answer it. I don't know what the question is. So, thoughts on Jewish ADL censoring Americans' free speech online? I don't have thoughts on it, because I don't know what you mean. You'll have to be more specific. I mean, I'm Jewish, but I'm not for any type of free speech being censored. So there you go. But you'd have to be more specific. I don't know what story you're talking about, Chanel. So let's see where we're at in the super chat here. Hold on one second before we move on. Ooh, I think we're moving up here. Yes, $19,424. $27 from Tammy. Thank you very much. So, Kamala Harris, who is the darling of the Democratic Party now, I think is going to be the Tom Perez, the DNC, the establishment's pick. She fills in every box, both gender, race, corporate Democrat, says all the right progressive platitudes, but doesn't actually stand for anything. I know that makes me a sexist and awful if you take on Kamala Harris, but I'm just talking truth. Well, Kamala Harris is sending out tweets and basically advertising to help Stacey Abrams in Georgia. Look at this. This is from Pace Magazine. Kamala Harris is effectively draining money from Stacey Abrams. You can't make this up. Siri, please show me the perfect metaphor. This is the article. Metaphor for how national Democrats deliberately cannibalize progressive causes in order to serve their own financial ends. And then the article shows the tweet. Stacey Abrams could still win or force a runoff, despite her Republican opponent's rampant voter suppression. Donate here to make sure every vote is counted in Georgia. So he wrote, seems harmless, right? She's trying to raise money for a candidate whose election is being stolen in front of our very eyes. Kamala Harris is helping, right? Whoa, you got to read the fine print, which most people don't. Note, your contribution will be divided evenly between Stacey Abrams and Kamala Harris. Click here to allocate amounts differently. I mean, honestly, Kamala, really? So it's interesting because when I first looked at this earlier today, the page was not situated this way. So when I looked at it earlier today, you see the note, your contributions will be divided evenly between Stacey Abrams and Kamala Harris. That was not at the top right when I looked earlier. It was lower, where if I didn't know this was happening, it was down here. So obviously, she recognized the flack she was getting on social media, and they moved it up to the top right position. But honestly, it doesn't even matter if you could see it, if it's on the bottom, if it's on the top right. It's absolutely ridiculous. And some people were defending her online and saying politicians do this all the time. Well, if they do, bad on me for never noticing, because I don't really read the fine print. I just see the headlines of who's asking me for money, and I don't open the email because I'm not helping Kamala Harris. I'm not helping Terry McAuliffe emailing me for help. I'm certainly not helping Tom Perez emailing me for help. I get all these emails from these corrupt Democrats who do nothing for me, do nothing for you. Oh, help us elect fellow corrupt Democrats. Hell no. But is it just me? If Kamala Harris, and by the way, I always mispronounce her name. Pramila Jayapal? Yes, Pramila Jayapal is doing this too. And she's fairly progressive. Your contribution will be divided evenly between Stacey Abrams and Pramila Jayapal. Click here to allocate amounts differently. So I guess if you click here to allocate amounts differently, you can set it to where it would all go to Stacey Abrams. But why do you even have that as an option anyway? Why? Why, if you want to help Stacey Abrams, why don't you just share her donation page? Why are you setting it up where you could be making money off of it? That doesn't seem like you're trying to help the progressive challenger in Georgia, who could be making history as the first African-American governor of Georgia, including being a woman, but you're going to get a cut of it? Come on. Come on. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. Like, you're greedy, Kamala Harris. You're greedy, Pramila Jayapal. So basically what you're telling people, and you're telling Stacey Abrams' campaign and her supporters, is for you to lift a finger by showing your support, and for you to for you to send that email to your supporters, which could open up a new stream of revenue for Stacey Abrams' campaign, and they need the money. They need the money right now because they're filing lawsuits. That costs money. They got lawyers on the ground there. They might have a lot of lawsuits against Brian Kemp. So they do need the money. But basically what you're saying, well, Miss Abrams, if you want my campaign email list, if you want us to lift a finger for you, we're getting part of that cut. And some people were defending her on Twitter saying this is standard practice for politicians. They do it all the time. Honestly, I've never seen that before. And if that is standard practice, bad on me for not noticing that. But you're not helping someone if you're taking 50% of it. Most people don't read the fine print. Most people just see the headline of the email, the subject line of the email, maybe read a line or two and decide whether they're going to contribute or not, and have no idea that half the money is going to Kamala Harris, not all of it to Stacey Abrams. So and first of all, let's be real. Why is Kamala Harris doing that? She's trying to raise money because she's running for president in 2020. She just became a senator, I think in 2016, she was elected as a senator. Thank you, Sam, for going after whoever's causing problems in the live chat. I'm trying not to be distracted, but I see some drama. But it's unbelievable, and it shows you, the media, like Rachel Maddow and MSNBC, they're trying to paint Kamala Harris as this progressive champion. No, she's not. She could have went after Steve Mnuchin when she was Attorney General of California. There was plenty of illegal behavior that Steve Mnuchin did, including foreclosing on people illegally. She didn't do anything. And shocker, Steve Mnuchin gave her quite a few pennies for her Senate campaign. And as far as I know, has she done anything as senator? Does this make me sexist or racist to point out facts? So, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I would love to be proved wrong. If Kamala Harris campaign wants to say, oh, it was a mistake, we want all the money to go to Stacey Abrams, then they should do that. But as of now, it totally looks like you're giving kind of like a little false little boost to Stacey Abrams while skimming some money off the top. Not skimming some, because most people aren't going to read that note. So you're getting 50%. You're getting 50%. And this is the problem with the Democratic Party. It's always about the money. It's not about the policy. It's not about the people. It's not about taking the pulse of America. It's not about knowing what your issues are, what your concerns are. It's about the money. So Kamala Harris sees an opportunity. Oh, Stacey Abrams got this whole thing. Let me send out an email pretending that I'm here to help Stacey Abrams and I can get more revenue for myself. I'll take 50%. It's quite the scam if you could get away with it. Quite the scam if you can get away with it, folks. Ay vey. Ryan Bell on Facebook says, Tulsi Gabbard for speaker. I would love to see Tulsi Gabbard as speaker. Cheryl Smith says, Rick Scott is a criminal. Look up the history. Will blow your mind. Oh, I know all about Rick Scott and his little Medicare schemes, too. I've done my homework. Don't get me wrong. I don't want Rick Scott to be senator either. I'm just saying I can't sit here and be like, oh, we have to elect Bill Nelson. We have to re-elect Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson is a corporate, corrupt Democrat. Period, point blank. Period, point blank. So, I digress. So now you know the news, what's going on in Florida. Obviously, breaking news can unfold this weekend, so I'll be on it. If something changes in the Gillum campaign versus DeSantis, we're also going to be publishing throughout the weekend more videos for my latest reporting tip in Flint. Unfortunately, YouTube, again, is suppressing this channel, so I don't think a lot of you have even seen when the videos are uploaded because the views have been relatively low. So definitely check out the Flint videos. I was going to do a story on Bernie today, but I'm going to save it for Monday. It's going to take me a little more time, and I want to look up some more articles with it. So before I wrap, nice little Q&A to end the week. And again, folks, I know it's tough to keep the urgency up. This GoFundMe is important. This GoFundMe is the seed money that we are really, really trying to earn for this company to grow Status Coup. You've seen the promo video. You've seen the kinds of stories we're going to cover. And also the story that we just went to Flint for. I can't give you every detail, but there might be some movement on that as far as this becoming a major, major national story. And we were able to break that story thanks to you. And we were able to stay on that story thanks to you. So your resources, it's not going to be our business model. I mean, we're going to have paid membership. We're finalizing that so we can add the membership section to the site so members will get exclusive content and all of that good stuff. But right now, we're trying to raise this seed money so that we could get out into the field, stay in the field as long as we need to cover the critical stories that no one else is covering. So thanks to the 279 people, I'm hoping, I think it's a good target this weekend to try and get that up to 300 people contributing, and we'd really like to get that past 20,000 by Monday. That was our goal for this week, to get it to 20,000. So if everybody can contribute even a few bucks, it makes a big, big difference. And also, I'm probably going to be doing a Patreon only video call this coming week to update on a few things, do our Q&A and all that business. So Patreon, it's not patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports anymore, so I need to make a new fancy sign. Patreon.com/Status Coup. So before I wrap, any questions, comments, concerns? As I said, Jen's not feeling well, so if you want to send her some love, feel free. Got a few minutes for some questions. You running the dryer, Jordan? LOL. No, I'm not running the dryer, but it's raining in New York City, and the rain drops on my air conditioning, so you might be hearing the air conditioning. Or my computer's going to explode, and maybe that's what you're hearing. I don't really know. Jordan, Nat Progressive did a super chat with the question, but the troll pushed it out of the way. Oh, okay. I don't know what the question was, so you have to tell me what the question was. Jerry Ross is the beast troll in this chat better than all you GDL people. I could have blocked Jerry Ross like back in my days at TYT, but he's committed. He shows up to like 90% of my live streams. that's dedication. Even though he's just totally full of shit, wrong on almost every issue, I'm not going to block him. We welcome your hatred, Jerry. We'd also welcome your facts if you had any. But Arlene says, "Feel better, Jen. Love for Milwaukee. I know that will warm her heart." Myra S. Mama says pipelines are directly related to climate change. They certainly are. Kimberly says, I haven't seen Jerry in a while. He was here earlier. He might have left. Michael Cooper, the Dem Party has to stand for something. I agree. And right now it stands for Trump is the enemy. Tim, I asked for a better understanding of Jordan's stance on guns versus mental health. Here's what I think. I think there is mental health illness in this country, and it shouldn't be minimized. I have depression. I take medicine for it. I've been hospitalized for depression, so I know just as much as the next person. Mental health illness could be absolutely paralyzing and debilitating. So I'm not minimizing it at all. I think it's very, very important that we increase in investment in mental health services, and we also destigmatize it. You know, it shouldn't even be a thing that I'm worried about to say I was hospitalized for depression. I at one point was suicidal in my life, and I was hospitalized for it. I'm not ashamed of that. And I think more people should feel safe, and it should be mainstreamed that mental health is, honestly, I look at depression, it's very similar to diabetes. If you have diabetes, you take insulin, right? In some cases. Well, if you have depression or anxiety, everybody's different. Some people take medication. Some people do holistic things like yoga and meditation and a whole mix of things. Everybody's path and everybody's treatment is different. So I think mental health is a real issue. I don't want to minimize that, and I don't think it's unrelated to gun violence. However, I don't think mental health is the issue when it comes to gun violence. I think it is a red herring to say the people kill other people, not the guns. No, that's not true. So there's a lot of people with depression in this country. There's a lot of people with anxiety in this country. There's a lot of people with anger problems in this country. There's a lot of people with economic despair in this country that don't kill people, that don't go out and pick up a bazooka gun. But the thing is, yes, you obviously have to be mentally ill or just really, really dysfunctional to take the act to do that. But the difference is, that shooter could not have gone into a bar on college night and killed 12 people with a knife, especially because there was multiple security guards there. Not possible. You know, I've had people, when I say this, send me articles from like Japan of a stabbing attack that killed 15 people on a train track. Yeah, there were 8 stabbers. There were 8 people that did it, not one. You'd have to be, you know, Mr. Miyagi, if you remember Karate Kid, with some crazy moves to kill 12 people with a knife. If you're one person. So, you know, we could talk about mental health, and I think it's very serious, but it's not what's killing these people. When you, as a country, put into distribution weapons of war that have no place on the streets, that have no place in citizens' hands. The people in the military say this, that AR-15 should not be in the hands of citizens. Similar weapons that are AR-15 style weapons should not be in the hands of citizens. Frankly, this shooter in the California bar, he didn't have an AR-15, but he had a Glock that had an extended magazine. Well, what are extended magazines for? So you could shoot more bullets in quicker amounts of times without having to reload. So it's not just whether it's an AR-15, it's what are the accessories in the gun? And that's what the NRA is in business for. They're not in business for gun safety or for responsible gun ownership. They're in business to embolden deranged people. The two things are not, these are not mutually exclusive. I don't want to touch the guns of hunters. Go hunt if you want. If you wanna hunt, that's fine. But you don't need an AR-15 to hunt. You don't. I know there's people that do this for sports and love it. But, you know, there's a lot of things I love to do. You know, I would love, honestly, to just walk around naked. I would love that. I mean, you wouldn't. It wouldn't be pretty, but I would love that. But there's laws against that. I can't do that. So I have to put clothing on. Joanna, Jordan, if it wasn't guns, it would be a knife or a bomb. I don't agree with you, Joanna. I don't. Joanna, respectfully, if you want to find me all the cases of 12 people and 15 people and 20 people being killed by one person yielding a knife, then I will gladly crack an egg over my nose. And of course you could do it with a bomb, but you know, it's not easy to get bombs into places. So, to wrap it up, to that question, of course, mental health is a problem. But I think we are allowing the NRA and we are allowing the Republicans and we are allowing the people with blood on their hands to muddy up the conversation with this mental health illness. You're not going to eradicate mental health in this country. You're just not. You're not going to eradicate it in any country. There's always going to be mentally ill people. Part of it is wiring in your brain, I believe, from genetics. Part of it is life circumstances. You're always going to have people that have issues. And we could invest in it. We could try to improve it. We could try to give them better childhood resources and adult resources. And that definitely could help curb violence. But it's not going to eradicate mass shootings because the guns are what causes the mass shootings. You got to look. Forget whether you're progressive, conservative, or agnostic. Common sense. What is the common denominator in every single one of these? You think somebody could have killed 58 people? You think somebody could have killed 58 people at that concert shooting in Nevada? What was shooting with a bow and arrow from the 22nd floor of a hotel? Oh, I would love Jerry Ross to do his own channel. Wouldn't that be fun? I'd go troll him. Jerry Ross, NRA is an educational organization. Okay, Jerry, now it's getting like crazy. Now I truly think you're just punking us. Because you can't believe that. You cannot believe that. So, Jerry, what's educational about the NRA? They are fighting something called smart guns. Smart guns is a gun with a fingerprint sensor. So, the only person who could shoot it is the one whose fingerprint matches the gun. Kind of like Face ID on your iPhone. Somebody can't open your iPhone unless the face of the owner of the phone matches. What's so educational about blocking that, Jerry? Why would you want to block smart guns so kids can't steal their father's guns? So if you drop your gun or you lose your gun, somebody can't take it. Why, Jerry? Is that the education of the NRA? Sam, if we're having some anti-Semitism, do your best. I do agree with blocking anti-Semitism. Jordan, the Utah tribe is suing U.S. government over mining, and Black Lives Matter is claiming the reservation no longer exists via the Nat Progressive before their super chat got swept away. Nat Progressive, can you email me that? It's very hard while I'm live to also be monitoring everything in the super chat. And as we get more viewers, thankfully, the super chat is going much quicker. Jerry says, yes, it's called Jordan Sucks Donkey Balls. Hey, Jerry, I respect your animosity, but can we leave the balls out of it? I don't suck donkey balls, okay? I'd rather matzo balls. Donkey balls, gross. Matzo balls I happen to like. Jordan, what do you think about making bullets $1,000 a piece? How about you make it $5,000 a piece? And again, I'm not against legal gun ownership. I'm not. And by the way, can I just make a radical statement, a radical question that I've never heard this? Why is it that you could go to a store and buy a gun, a killing machine, without having to be screened by a psychologist right there at purchase? You want to create jobs in this country? There needs to be psychologists in every gun store, at every gun show, all around this country. That you have to sit with the psychologist and pass a mental health screening. That sounds responsible to me. So we can screen people for mental illness. We could screen people for aggression. We could screen people for PTSD. We could screen people for severe anxiety. We could screen people for severe paranoia. Seems pretty common sense to me. Vincier, so should everyone that is on SSRIs be barred from owning a gun? No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm on an antidepressant. I mean, I don't want to buy a gun, but the SSRI for me works. I mean, it helps me, the antidepressant. And honestly, for me, really, really saves my life. But the bottom line is, it's not about whether you're on an antidepressant or on something else. It's about when you're distributing things. You are distributing things in the public that are weapons of war. These accessories could make them weapons of war. So it might be somebody that's mentally ill. It might be somebody that's not mentally ill who's not mentally ill but just snaps. Whatever the case, it's about lessening the amount of weapons of war and machines that can kill many, many people in a very short period of time. That's what it's about. And by the way, look up the data. After the assault weapons ban in the 1990s, gun violence went down significantly. We have data to prove it. People like Jerry don't want to look, but we have the data. So, went on a little long about that. Like I said, I'll be monitoring the news this weekend. If there's new developments in any of these campaigns, more fraud, more election fraud, I'll be live. Remember, folks, we're pushing this GoFundMe for a reason. So if you got a few bucks to contribute, we really appreciate it. If you can't contribute, you know the drill. Share the video. And as always, oh, you could go to statuscoup.com, by the way. You know the website's up. We have original reporting up there. We're uploading the videos up there. And we're still in the process of developing the website out further. So definitely check that out. Thank you for watching. And as always, most people are not lacking compassion in this country. Most people have no fucking clue what's going on. Peace out.